Hey guys, Ian here. We're taking a look at a new Boberg pistol, the long version of the XR9. This is mechanically an extremely interesting gun. There's an awful lot going on inside, and we'll go ahead and show that to you in a minute. But first, we figured we'd put a few rounds through it. It's small, it's narrow, it has a 7-round magazine of standard 9mm Luger cartridges, and the way the mechanics have been set up, this has an extremely long barrel length for the overall size of the gun. You're getting a 4-inch long barrel. That's like the same length as a Commander 1911 in this tiny little pistol. And the reason for that is because of the way the gun works. Instead of pulling cartridges out the front of the magazine, the Boberg actually pulls cartridges out the back, lifts them up, and then feeds them into the barrel. So, like I said, we'll take a look at the mechanics in a minute. But one of the problems we encountered with this, and I have to say Boberg told us this would happen, they have a list of ammunition that doesn't work reliably in the gun. And we just started going randomly through the different brands that we have. And the first couple that we tried would actually rip the case off of the bullet. So sometimes it would actually chamber an empty case and then fire just the primer because all the powder would fall out in the process. And sometimes it would malfunction when it pulled the case off. Now, we're shooting Fiocchi right now, and that seems to be nice and reliable for it. Of course, most ammunition companies aren't designing ammo with the idea that it's going to be yanked backwards out of a magazine. They expect it to be pushed forward like 99% of pistols out there. As with most modern carry pistols, there is no manual safety. It just has a long double-action trigger pull. There's a hammer here on the back that's really nice and flush with the gun when it's not being fired. Slide works like a normal pistol. And we have a magazine release right here, right where you would expect it. Gun does not lock open on an empty magazine. As you can see, when I'm empty, it just clicks on an empty chamber. Overall, the gun is fairly comfortable to shoot. You might expect a full-size 9mm in a gun this small to be fairly stout in recoil, but it really isn't. Boberg has done a number of things that help to mitigate the recoil. It does have a bit of muzzle flip to it. I don't think there's any way to avoid that, but it's a comfortable gun to shoot, certainly more so than a lot of the subcompact 9mm and similar guns. All right, to begin disassembly, we're going to take the magazine out, confirm that the pistol is unloaded, which it is. We need to rotate this disassembly lever forward, whack the slide back, there it goes. Now we can pull the slide off the front. Our frame is here. This is a polymer frame because all the pressure is being held in the slide. We have a neat little connector lever from the trigger back to this hammer. And we have an ejector right here at the very back of the frame. I also want to point out this silver flat piece is a cartridge lifter. That's what transfers the cartridge from the little grabber arms that pull it out of the magazine up onto the breech face. Moving on to the slide, we have this piece which controls the rotation of the barrel. This pistol, the Boberg, locks by having a rotating barrel. So when it's in this position, it's free to travel. When it's all the way back, it rotates, not much, 10 or 15 degrees, and that locks the barrel so that it can't move. So this cammed opening right here is what controls rotating the barrel. The first little bit of recoil of the slide, the barrel stays locked. Then this cam in the barrel travels up that little wedge, which rotates it open, and then the barrel stops moving and the slide continues backward to cycle. We have our mainspring. It's a bit unusual in that it runs literally the entire length of the slide. There's a hole here in the front of the slide where the spring guide comes out when you pull the slide back. That's kind of like a Nambu, actually. A bit unusual. Now let's pull the barrel out. And the really interesting part of the Boberg is the feed mechanism that they have. We've got these two little gripper arms that you don't see in other pistol designs. There are two springs back here, and so they're independently kind of spring-loaded, so they'll both move. And the way this feeds is these two arms snap over the back of a cartridge case in the magazine, just like that. Then, as the slide goes backwards, these arms are cammed up like that, which brings the case up towards the breech face, and then this lifter right here pushes the cartridge the rest of the way up into a second pair of extractors that hold it to the breech face. Once that's done, these arms can go back down and they can grip onto the next cartridge in the magazine, so when you fire, the arms are holding one case, the second case is actually loaded in the barrel, and when you fire, it pulls the empty out with the two extractors on the breech face, and it pulls the next cartridge out with those two little arms. The empty gets thrown out the top of the gun, and the next one then gets pushed into the breech face. This is a very clever design, it's very cool, pretty unusual, and it's all done so that the barrel can be that long. In a typical blowback pistol, the barrel would have to come to about here so that you could feed cartridges forward out of the magazine. By feeding them backwards, you can add probably 30% to the barrel length. Now, reassembly is quite simple. We're going to start by putting the barrel in. We're then going to put the camming piece in. Slides in right there. The recoil spring sits up along the side of the slide right here. And then we have two rails on the frame of the pistol that just slide over that. We bring the slide all the way back, rotate the assembly lever, and we're ready to go again. So for all of its cool mechanical complexities, this does still leave the question, is it worth buying a Boberg? These are not cheap pistols. They are made 100% in the US. They're a small company, fairly new on the market, and they have put an incredible amount of time and energy into this design. And they've come up with a good product, but unfortunately, I don't think it's a good product for everybody. This pistol does come with a list of ammunition that is not recommended for use. We discovered that, obviously, out on the range. Cartridges are often not made anticipating force pulling the case backwards. And we did, with a couple of brands, find that it would pull the case off the bullet, leave a bullet in the magazine, dump the powder everywhere, and then that makes for a very complex feed stoppage to clear if you're in a fight. Now, they do have a list of ammunition that will do that. If you're willing to thoroughly test your ammunition and perhaps pay more for premium ammo to use in the gun, then as far as we can tell, it works fine. Once we got a brand, in fact we used Fiocchi, that didn't have any problems. We had no malfunctions with it whatsoever. It's a nice shooting gun. It does give you that bit of extra ballistic advantage because it does have a long barrel for its size. If that's something you need, the Boberg is an excellent answer. Unfortunately, I think for most people, that extra inch or so of barrel just isn't all that important, and I think for most people it's not worth the extra price and the extra ammunition sensitivity that the Boberg requires. So I hate to be negative on a really cool gun like this, but I think this is something for a small niche group of people who really want the specific strengths that it offers.